Power 2 here on College Football Addiction. TJ Pittinger, Tom Hannifan, and Cole Thompson. And we have a special start to this show. Hey, let's get Cole, not full screen, but big screen at least. So before we talk about any of the chaos that happened last week or that we expect this week upcoming, Cole, the floor and the cup is yours.
I know why you're here. I know why all of you are here, and it's not to go ahead and say you don't know ball, you're an idiot. You had no idea what you were expected to be in this matchup between Duke and Illinois. I was wrong. You had 5 turnovers. You capitalized on all 5. And let's just call a spade a spade. Illinois, tip of the hat to you. Because at this point, you are clearly the 4th best team at worst in the Big Ten. And I think that you have a shot over the next 3 games to prove that you can be a college football playoff threat. But I said that the under was going to hit, and I was confident the under was going to hit. Now, this was going to be a low-scoring affair between 2 great defenses, and I did not respect Luke Altmaier enough and what his prognosis was as a player and how he was going to be able to lead the Illini's offense down the field and into the red zone. So, sitting right in front of me is a full glass, non-diluted apple cider vinegar. As promised, ladies and gentlemen, when you come to College Football Addiction, the Power 2, you may get takes that you disagree with. But what you will also get is people standing on business. I will never shy away from making a commitment to you. So when I say I'm going to do something, bottoms up.
Oh, that is disgusting. Oh.
One jug is the way to do it. Cheers to Cole.
All right, let's get on to the show.
All right, Cole, break down Florida USF.
I want it. You guys start with Florida USF.
You're the SEC guy. You have to go first.
Oh, I'm the Florida hater. I'll start.
Yeah.
Round of applause for Cole. If I had some video. No.
Outstanding.
There probably is like a, there we go. Very well deserved. You know, one time I did that on my show and I somehow turned the loop on and I couldn't get it off. I was like, stop playing. So anyway, shout out to Illinois for making them do it, and Duke for making them do it. All right, we'll start in Gainesville. Probably I mean, Bama Florida State was a little closer on a spread line. USF goes into the swamp, and man, I think there's just so much we could say here about Billy Napier, about DJ Lagway, about just the team, the trenches, the play calling, the end of game management, the time management, missed tackles on the last drive, spitting on a guy. I mean, just from top to bottom, I didn't have Florida in the playoff, right? Like I wasn't 9-3 there, but I was like 8-4. Like I thought their best case scenario was 10-2. I thought the absolute bottom falling out for Florida outside of like a Lagway injury would be like 6-6. I mean, I would say I believed in this team, even as a Florida hater. And I'm just like, I'm almost frustrated. I'm not frustrated as a Florida State fan. I'm frustrated as like a college football fan that they have, it's game 2. There's plenty of time, right? Like, let me talk myself off the imaginary ledge. But I am so frustrated by the fact that they are going to waste one of the most talented rosters that they've had since, 2020 in the COVID year, and then before that, since Urban was there. They're going to waste it. And they're going to waste a generational quarterback who didn't practice all offseason. They're going to waste so much talent, so much goodwill that they bought back with the way that they finished the year last year. And sure, as a Florida State fan, I'm thrilled about that. But as just a college football fan, it's just like, what in the world are we doing here? USF put everybody on alert 9 days before when they beat Boise State to open up the year. And if that didn't catch Florida's attention, then I just don't know what will. And we'll talk about what it means big picture. We'll talk about the game. But their next 5 games, man, the teams that they have to play, and really even the Mississippi State and Kentucky games don't look like gimmies anymore after both those teams played this weekend. And then Florida State looks better than we expected, and Tennessee looks better than we expected. And you got Georgia and Texas and all this other stuff on this schedule. I don't know, man. I guess I'm firing somebody in week 2, and that's not the first time this has happened with him. But I'm just so disgusted by the way that Florida did everything that they did on Saturday. So, Cole, hopefully that was a long enough rant for you to get your breath back, and you can take off from where I left off.
No, but I will just continue. Okay. So the problems that I had with the Florida game wasn't just the inconsistencies of where the offensive personnel was, or the play design, or just the inaptitude of what we saw defensively. Never thought in my wildest days that I would say Byron Brown was the better quarterback in the state of Florida than DJ Lagway. Never thought that was going to be a possibility, ever. But the problem isn't even that. The problem is you're still seeing faults of a program that is supposed to be in year one of a total rebuild, and it's year 4.
Yeah.
Like, we're still seeing the same critical mistakes, the same blundering errors, the same inconsistency on the offensive line, the unheralded play designs from an offensive coordinator who is the head coach that got told this offseason, go out and hire an OC, we'll pay for the OC just for you to turn the corner and have a little bit of sanctity. Like, all those things you could have had, and you're still watching the same mitigating flaws and mistakes and issues time after time after time. And it's not that you were a bad team. I mean, South Florida, give credit where credit's due. Alex Golesh is a killer. Alex Golesh has been everything that you could have imagined for this program in the last 2 years. He took Alabama to the wire in back-to-back seasons. Nick Saban, Kalen DeBoer, he gets a massive, massive win. He gets a massive,
He's
massive
still
win.
struggling with the apple cider.
It's really hurting. He gets a massive win in week 1 over Boise State. And he has, I think, a roster that is playing up to its standard, and they have explosive plays and a good defense, and they don't make a lot of self-inflicting wounds, which ultimately was the deciding factor in this game. But ultimately, it just comes back to the unwavering faults that you have as a program and little things that cost you. The inability to go for it on 4th down, the constantness of having a rushing attack headlined by Jacoby Jackson and Jaden Baugh and saying, we're going to try to win through the air. That doesn't work in your favor.
Yeah.
Little things like that just are so mitigating that you just have to ask yourself, what would be the case of this program if we were able to ever just find some continuity? And the worst part of all is everything could have been forgiven if you just found a way to win. You get a win, okay, well, you know what? We're sitting at 2-0. We go into LSU. We can call this a look-ahead spot. But you lose because of a dumb penalty. Spitting on a player. And it gives them fresh life, puts them in a position to get a field goal, and they walk away with a moment that everyone down in Tampa will never ever. And it's a win with a coach that now has the backbone to build this as a team that can go on a college football playoff run, that could be the G5 representative, and also he's going to be the hottest coach on the market this offseason. If there is a job that he does not feel like is the best fit for him, he can turn it down and continue to build what he's got in South Florida up to a program of prominence. It just feels like, once again, we are talking about Florida and what it should be and what it's not. And this also comes from, in my opinion, which has been a very, very big issue, Florida fans have been trying to get back to the level of what they were for years underneath Urban Meyer. And they still haven't been able to accomplish it. And the worst part is that you had a coach that was able to get the job done with the X's and O's and the scheming in Dan Mullen, but he said some things about recruiting that you didn't like. And so you fired him and you said, you know what, we're right at the end of the goal line, but you know what, nah, we're good. We're going to let you go. Who cares? And you don't have that, and you're kind of hitting reset again. This is where we are. I hate the fact this for Billy Napier because I do think that he is a good coach. Maybe he's not a Power 4 Florida coach in the SEC, but I do think he's a good coach. It's now win or shut up. Like, it's the fact that the identity of your team decided not to show on Saturday. It's the fact that you had no opportunity to build any consistency. All of these issues, just constantly, of the shooting in the foot. And it's year 4. Like, how much longer are we going to do the song and dance of you being able to figure things out?
Before Tom goes big picture here, I thought the last drive was so emblematic. And I don't want to crap on the defense too much because you hold a team to 16 points. I'm not counting the safety. You hold a team to 16 points at home. An upstart team, you should win that game. Like, there's no excuses to not. So I don't want to crap on the defense. But everything the defense did on the everything that happened on USF, and really even backing it up to Florida's last offensive drive, where Napier throws the ball twice from the 50-yard line. Like, run the ball twice and make them use timeouts. And I don't know, man. They've got to go 90 yards because they've got good special team. Well, I guess the safety maybe proves me wrong there. But everything that happened in those last two drives, Florida's last drive and USF's drive, was emblematic of a Billy Napier coach team at UF, unfortunately for them. From the spitting on the player, that same play they had, a pass interference, that they got 30 yards of penalties in one play that I think was a second down. And it would have been 3rd and long, and they give him 30 yards. The very next drive, the long play down the sideline, they had him tackled in the backfield and just missed tackles, which are a little uncharacteristic for Florida. Their defense has been pretty good so far, but missed tackles there. Let them get down inside. Billy won't call timeouts. They end up getting the thing set up perfectly for just a chip shot field goal. It was all emblematic of the issues that have plagued Florida for this long. And, it felt like even when USF got the ball back late, hey, Florida will squeak this out, but man, it was closer than it should have been. Their defense will get one more stop. And there's such a lack of mental toughness, and you watch teams play and you can see that relatively quickly. There's a lack of mental toughness on this team, from spitting on people to the way that they ended the game, to the way that they call the game, to the way that, Lagway had like 3 touchdowns that he could have had if he just sets his feet the right way. And so I don't know, man. Like they're just from top to bottom a mess. We'll preview the LSU game here in a little bit. Certainly, if you win that, you kind of bounce back and you feel a lot better than you did. But I think you can go win LSU, you can go win Miami, you can win the next 2 if you're Florida. And you'll just be waiting for that next classic Billy Napier moment and that classic UF moment where, all right, who are they going to blow? Is it going to be Kentucky on the road? Is it going to be Mississippi State at home? Are they going to get blown out by Tennessee or something weird? So I think you could win the next 2 and you'd still be, well, we know, but it's coming. It's coming for us again.
Looking overall, I'll start with Florida. One, it's okay that Billy Napier is a great offensive coordinator, but not a great coach. We say that all the time in college football. Coordinators take head coaching jobs because it's their dream. It's the natural career progression. It doesn't always work out. There's a very strong possibility that Billy Napier is somewhere else as a coordinator and has tremendous success. Maybe that is his lot in life in this sport, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think I want to hear the phrase that DJ Lagway is a generational quarterback. I think he's a generational athlete. He still has a lot to prove when it comes to processing and throwing the football. He is clearly and maybe the best athlete on the field every single time he steps on the field. But this is a better situation than what Florida had with Anthony Richardson, but there's still issues with it overall. The discipline is a problem for Florida. Looking at USF, the rest of their schedule makes me feel very strongly that this is the group of 5 team in the college football playoff. I think, give them the benefit of the doubt, playing Boise State in week 1 and blowing them out in Tampa, 34-7. No Ashton Genty, Boise State comes back down to earth, right? Okay, they beat a playoff team in week 1. So now it's kind of like, all right, let's see what else you got. You just beat Florida in the swamp. Now you go to Miami. Even if you drop this game to number 5 Miami, the rest of your schedule, you should win every other game on your schedule. I'm looking at what they have like at Memphis, and then Navy can play you tough. But goodness, USF, I'm getting flashbacks with Byron Brown to the point where I'm like, is this guy better than Matt Grothe? And some of those peaks.
Tampa legend. Yeah.
So he's one of those do-it-all guys, and I'd say he's a better passer than Grothe. So I'm very encouraged by what I'm seeing, and the defense, I think, for USF is something that looked really good against Boise, obviously held up at the right points against Florida. What are they going to do against Miami? Are they going to be able to make Beck uncomfortable? Because that's something Notre Dame struggled with against the Hurricanes. Is Beck, he didn't have all day to throw, but he was able to move in the pocket, and he looked very comfortable for most of that game. USF, they made Madsen uncomfortable. They made Lagway uncomfortable. Can they do the same for Beck?
Cole, any other thoughts on this? Just big picture for UF going forward. Obviously, we'll talk about the LSU game here in a second, but just thoughts on all of it.
Yeah, 2 things. Number 1, if you are going to be done with Billy Napier, which I completely understand, it's hard for me as somebody that tries to be the most optimistic person on the channel and always looks at life in the glass half full. It's hard for me to defend him anymore. You also have to have realistic expectations on who's coming in as a head coach. You're not getting Nick Saban to come out of retirement. Dan Lanning is not going to leave Oregon to go on down to Gainesville. You're probably not even getting Lane Kiffin. You probably are not going after the coach that people wanted last season to replace Billy Napier. So who are the realistic options that you feel can elevate this team and put Florida in a position where they can get back to the ways of sustainability and success? Number 2, the thing about Florida...
Wait, can we go back?
Yeah.
Could he have been at Ben Griffin Hill Stadium last week?
That was what I was about to say.
Could that have been the guy?
It could. I think John Summerall and him are the top 2 G5 coaches right now on every single radar. That if you need a head coach and your athletic director is not looking down to New Orleans or to Tampa, your athletic director is in the wrong and he needs to be fired, and you need to get somebody who will bring these 2 in. That's just my 2 cents on it. The thing with a Florida-led team, they refuse to quit on Billy. They do. This game against LSU is going to be a major wake-up call for what Florida is the rest of the season. And again, crazy things happen in the world of college football where you lose 1 week to NIU and then play for a national title. So this may end up being the right wake-up call to where Florida is playing a 1-0 mentality the rest of the season. They get great play in the rushing attack. They trust the offensive personnel. They bully against Florida. Against LSU. They bully Miami. They beat Texas, and they're right back in, and nobody's even talking about this loss to USF. A good USF team, which, by the way, if they were in a G5 school, they'd be ranked inside everyone's top 10. They would, because they have 2 ranked wins against quality top 25 opponents. So, still, anything can change. But the attitude number 1 has got to be the selling point this week throughout practice and every single week from here on out if you want us to start believing in Florida once more. Because if not, you got a long season ahead. The worst part about this loss wasn't the fact that you dropped a game to USF. It was you turned your head and saw what was waiting in the horizon. Good luck if you cannot get things together pretty quickly and fix the multiple key errors, critical mistakes that are certainly going to hinder your success long term.
Let's go down to Kansas and Missouri, the border war. This was fun. This was a good game. I watched this on the way back from Tallahassee. Who wants to start here? Cole, you want to start us off? Or Tom, you want to?
I'm going to dive in because I think Cole is really legitimately still struggling from the apple cider vinegar.
I'm gonna excuse myself for literally 2 seconds.
So, TJ, I was the one who was really excited about this game because it gave me flashbacks to 2008 Reesing versus Daniel when both these teams were in the Big 12. It kind of felt like that, didn't it? No. Jalen Daniels ends 18 of 30, 223 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, only 10 carries for 17 yards and a touchdown. A lot of credit to Missouri's defense in that they came away with 3 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. Like, they controlled Daniels for the most part, and the passing game just didn't have the opportunity to do, I think, what they would ultimately wanted to do. Next to nothing from the running game from Kansas. I mean, 1.6 yards per carry, 1.5, excuse me, the rushing touchdown coming from Daniels. So it just can't be a situation that's sustainable for the Jayhawks year round to see Daniels versus the world. Meanwhile, Bo Perbula put his foot on the gas. I think, yes, we understand what he did against Central Arkansas. It's Central Arkansas, and he stepped in after Horn got injured, and that was a very impressive showing. For him to play a legitimate Big 12 team and go 30 of 39, 334 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and then 9 carries for 6 yards. I mean, what more can you ask for? And this is a guy getting the opportunity to do this. I think the thing that's really exciting about this is Ahmad Hardy, 25 carries for 112 yards. Jamal Roberts, 13 carries for 143 yards, 2 touchdowns between them. In the end, Mizzou finishes 5.6 yards per carry. We had a really good feeling about Ahmad Hardy elevating from, I think it was ULM. Am I correct on that? ULM? Him elevating to the SEC, he seems to fit right in. And I think this is what is going to make Mizzou dangerous for a lot of teams in the in the SEC, is because you have a dual threat quarterback who's very safe and efficient with the football thus far through 2 games, really. But I'm very encouraged by what Mizzou was able to do. And this just did feel like an old school shootout for the most part. What did you think, TJ?
Yeah, it was interesting to watch because it was back and forth. And I mean, Kansas had this. I mean, Kansas was up early and had this thing. I don't want to say had this thing because it was way, way early in the game. But it wouldn't have shocked me at all if Missouri was just like, all right, man, well, here we go. You know, like Jalen Daniels is kind of passing all over us, kind of running all over us. They're playing well defensively. We're struggling. Like, I certainly didn't expect him to quit. Like, that's not my point. But it would not have shocked me if this thing snowballed because there were a lot of questions about Missouri in this coming into this year, coming into this game. Hey, what will they do with what they've replaced? And I mean, they didn't. Credit to them. Now it's a little easier at home for sure, but man, there could have been a situation where this thing got ugly and got out of hand, and Kansas kind of had it. I don't want to say there for the taking because it was so early in the game. I was impressed with Missouri's resolve in this and just saying like, no, we're the better team, and we're going to go out and show you that we're the better team. They ran all over them. They were just better everywhere after the kind of a tough start. And I'm very impressed with Prbula. And we've talked about Missouri's schedule sets up really, really nicely for them. And I don't think they'll need, if they can handle their business, if they can take care of what they need to take care of, I don't even think they'll need a 30-team college football playoff to get in. But it's on them to handle their business, right? That's you go out and win the games you're supposed to win. You don't drop to the Arkansas of the world and the Kentucky. You go win the games you're supposed to, and you're going to rack up a lot of dubs in an SEC schedule that is as favorable as it can be. And an SEC that's probably as wide open as it's ever been, right? I mean, we thought the SEC was wide open last year. We got Florida losing to USF. We got LSU and Georgia not blowing out, winning comfortably, but not blowing out inferior competition. We've already seen Bama this year. Oklahoma's got a tough schedule. Texas doesn't look indefensible with Arch maybe banged up, and we've seen some clips on social. Like, this thing's wide freaking open. And so, man, go have fun, drink. Cole.
I put myself through pain today. So all I ask for from here on out is that you like the video, you hit the ring notification, and you watch us live twice a week, because we give you great content and we give you great clips to where when we make stupid things, here we go. We come back and we live up to our hype. If you were to turn this game off in the first quarter and saw 21-6, you would have never understood what was one of the best games from the second quarter on of the weekend. Not only did Missouri outscore Kansas 36-10, they also outgained them 488-202. They were phenomenal on third down. They were great with the execution on the passing attack. They were risky and not afraid to take those shots on fourth down attempts. They finished with nearly 600 total yards of offense, 8.6 yards put through the air. Not just one running back in Jamal Roberts, but two running backs in Ahmad Hardy to hit the triple-digit marker. Both combined averaged over 6 yards a carry, 5 total explosive runs of 20-plus yards downfield. Kevin Coleman, have yourself a day, proving that you're wide receiver number one with 126 yards. Brett Norfleet, have yourself a day in the red zone with 2 gotta-have touchdowns. And Bo Prbula, which, by the way, let me just say this real fast to people out there. I know his name is Prbula. I say Prbula because it is very hard for me to announce the R. So, I know his name is Prbula. It's just, if I say Prbula, it's because of the way that my mouth works and because of the way that my brain hits it. Still, kid's awesome. I think a lot of people had the question marks after the Central Arkansas game because it's Central Arkansas. You're supposed to put up that type of production against a team from the FCS level, but the confidence that he played with, the unwavering attitude of, I know that I have got to be the guy. Seeing as Jalen Daniels was able to connect downfield for a big-time score, and then responding with your own drive of 8 plays at perfection in the passing attack, third down conversions, just no one's business, and then Brett Norfleet in the back of the end zone to guarantee that you're getting on top. That, to me, is what you wanted to see from Mizzou last season when you had, again, a very relaxed schedule and a team that had a veteran feel at the wide receiver spot. And it's nothing against Brady Cook, but there were certainly, I think, some limitations that you had with 12 that you're not going to have with 9. This is a game that when you look back, if it's a stepping stone moment for Mizzou to where they could be in the hunt for the college football playoff, I think it's because of what we saw in the second half of this game. The unwillingness to go down and die and understand what this win means to the state of Missouri, what this means to the state of your program. It's now the 4th consecutive border war victory, and we had to wait 15 plus years to get this next one back in since 2011, but you'll take it because you want to know what? You understand what a win like this does and what a moment like this does for the program. Defensively, you did a good job of shutting down the rushing attack. Something that I said in the preview was, can you keep Jalen Daniels in the pocket? Can you avoid him making those second chance opportunities with his legs and be able to win on the ground with Daniel Highshaw? They gave up less than, I think, 2 yards a play. No, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, they gave up less than 1 yard a play. 28 total rushing yards on 19 attempts. They made this offense one-dimensional. And credit where credit's due. I think that Kansas did show you against a very good Mizzou defense that last year was top 20 in so many different categories. It can be a player in the Big 12 this year that's wide open at this point. But still, for you to be able to win this game after being down and realizing we have got to stop with the self-inflicting wounds, that's a moment where I think Mizzou can go ahead and catapult itself into success. You got to be very confident in what you have at quarterback. You got to be very confident in what you have in the ground game. You got to feel very confident in what you have as a wide receiver room that's only getting better with time. And the schedule is so manageable. The fact that you have 4 more games at home to build a good rapport and work out all the minute kinks before you play your first road game. I mean, if somehow Mizzou makes the college football playoff, Eli Drinkwitz has got to drive down to Atlanta, find the head of scheduling, and give him a big old smooch on the mouth, because the way the schedule worked out probably was such a big benefactor on why they were playing in the dozen dance.
The same guy's going to get a kick in the nuts if Venables makes it there. but yeah, I'd rather be in Missouri's shoes right now than Oklahoma's from a scheduling perspective. All right, we'll talk about Oklahoma in just a minute. I will give Sleeper some love just very quickly. We picked some of these last week. I don't have the picks. We'll recap it on Wednesday. But I do just quickly want to tell people about Sleeper. Use our code CFA to get 100% match up to $100. Now, terms and conditions apply. Make sure you check out their terms of use. What's really cool in here, and we should do this on College Football Addiction, you can't do it in college, but they have eliminator leagues, they have pick'em leagues, they have a ton of different stuff that you can do fantasy-wise during not just college football, or not just the NFL, but literally I saw some stuff for Barcelona and like La Liga and stuff, and I'm sure they'll do it for the NBA and NHL and all that too. So maybe we'll do like a pick'em or something through here and give away some tickets. So stay tuned for that. But Sleeper, more than just the more or less game that we play on Wednesdays, go check them out. Go make some money with us if you can. And also, I really have enjoyed their score bug feature. They do a good job with the just updating you on the games. I know people hate the 4-letter networks score tracker for just everything college football, ESPN, whatever. I hate how the ESPN one always defaults back to the top 25, because to start the year, my team wasn't in the top 25. But I hate that. I want to see all the games. You can set the defaults on here, which is a big deal to me. So go check out the Sleeper app. Appreciate them for their support. All right, we'll start this out with a super chat. Thanks, Hunter, for the love. Before we even get into a game recap, boys, question for Tom. Thoughts on Michigan's record this season?
I love being right. I love it. I actually picked Michigan to win this game, so I was wrong. But am I right about Michigan? Overall, I'm very right about Michigan. Here's the truth of the matter. And I say this is a tough thing for me to say. Michigan right now, despite all of Bryce Underwood's physical gifts, Michigan has a service academy offense. They can run the hell out of the football. But if you get a touchdown, 2-touchdown lead on them, boy, it is tough to come back. There is no threat in the passing game. This offensive line is not the offensive line that you remember of the past with Michigan, the year they won the national championship 2 years ago, what you saw consistently under Jim Harbaugh. This is not that Michigan team. This is a real good defense, by the way. I really like some of the things they did against Oklahoma. Yes, they were missing Jayshon Barham in this game, and that was critical. Road game, it felt like a big Oklahoma game in Norman, didn't it, guys? Like, it felt like Oklahoma, quote unquote, was back, but not, like, you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like they were into that game. But Michigan, man, like, looking at the rest of their schedule, they have losable games, in my opinion, at Nebraska, at USC, home versus Washington, and to end the season, of course, against Ohio State. You do get that one at home. I know you beat them last year, but still, my prediction that this team could go 8-4, all of a sudden, you need to start entertaining the possibility of Michigan finishing the year 7-5. And guys, that's not bad still. You will make a bowl game. There are no weapons for Bryce Underwood to utilize. The scheme has to change. Him dropping back to throw 24 times clearly isn't in his bag right now. That number needs to be 15 to 20 max. But you need to run the ball, and you need to get a lead early, and you need to protect it, and you need to win the turnover battle. And they nearly did win that. They obviously won the turnover battle against Oklahoma, but still, there's a lot left to be desired, and it's not Bryce Underwood's fault. He still has a lot he has to figure out as a passer because he's a true freshman. He's not walking on water the second he walks into the sport. So, listen, I had picked Michigan to win this game, and I think in an alternate universe, they were this close to doing it. Hats off to John Mateer, though, and Oklahoma, and Brent Venables, arguably the best defensive mind in college football. Shocker that he had a very good game plan in what I would categorize as a must-win game for Venables. Not saying he would get fired the day after he potentially lost this game, but this is one of the handful of games for Oklahoma this year. It's like, you got to have this one. And they got it.
Yeah, we'll go to Cole, but I agree with that completely. This was not a must-win for Michigan. It would have been a nice to win for sure. It would have made the hopes and vibes and Tom's feelings go the opposite direction. But if Oklahoma loses this one, dude, their next 8 opponents. Well, no, they've got Auburn and then a cupcake, and then their next 8 opponents, and they're all ranked right now. Now they won't all be ranked when they play them because of carnage, but yeah, like they had to have this one. If you lose this one, you're starting to look at the rest of the schedule and saying, man, what are they gonna do in the SEC? You're looking at 6-6, 7-5 again. So, Cole, thoughts on Oklahoma?
Real fast. I just want to throw this out there when it comes to Michigan. Michigan decided to pay a lot of money for Bryce Underwood to become their future quarterback, and the reason why they can win a national title. And honestly, they can win a national title with him. The thing that I was very much impressed with in that New Mexico game was his poise, his confidence, his demeanor. And he showed that during the game against Oklahoma. First road start against one of the best defensive minds in the sport. But part of the thing that comes when buying a quarterback in today's college football is buying him a supporting cast. Michigan, and Michigan fans specifically, who come in my comment section all the time and say, look at our wide receiver room. Look at how good. You don't know what's going to. I don't want to hear it the rest of the year. I don't want to hear it one time. Not once. If you not go out and utilize your brand, your logo, and that quarterback as the pipeline reason a wide receiver wants to play in Ann Arbor next season, you're doing it wrong. You are, because you got to get him some weapons. This is not going to be a good passing attack this year. It is not going to be a receiver room filled with a bunch of superstars. You may end up going 9-3 still, because I like your defense and I like your quarterback enough to where I could see you easily winning out and spitting the game against Nebraska. Maybe it is against Ohio State. Who knows what it is? I could see you winning those games, but you have got to stop with this narrative that your wide receivers are so great and we just haven't seen them. No, they're not. No, they are not, and it was evident on Saturday. Now, with that being said, if you would have told me that Michigan was going to come on out and have more explosive plays on the ground, they were going to set the tone in the fourth quarter with a 75-yard touchdown run by Justice Haynes. They were going to win the turnover battle. They were going to capitalize on the turnovers, including a muff punt that gave you great field position to where you were able to walk away with points. If you would have told me that they would have finished with a very balanced overall ground game, and they would have had fewer penalties, I would have said, okay. So the final score was, what, 24-20 in your favor? I mean, low scoring, but still, you'll take it. No, the score was actually, if I'm not mistaken, it was 24-13, and it could have been worse. And it could have been way worse. The self-inflicting wounds that we saw from Oklahoma ultimately cost them an opportunity to win 31-13 or 34-13. That's how good of a game plan Brent Venables had for this offense. That's how good of a game plan we saw slowing down Bryce Underwood and making this offense one-dimensional. They were better on third down execution. They were better on fourth down execution. They also averaged more yards per play. You saw the rushing attack, not with your lead running backs, but with John Mateer be fully potent at the second level. You saw the linebackers take the bait, and you watched as first downs continue to stockpile for Oklahoma. And ultimately, you had a good execution on both key elements to get yourself a signature win. This win happened because of Brent Venables was calling plays defensively. He said this offseason, if I'm going to be fired, I'm going to go down with my defense running it my way. And it's worked. And it worked against Michigan, and it allowed you to be able to coast your way to a victory. You also said you're going to trust that you get a quarterback from the G5 level with an offensive coordinator and Ben Arbuckle that was going to change the way that we viewed this personnel. And so far it has. I think that the scheming has made the offensive line look better. I would say the wide receivers, Deion Burks, have yourself a day, look back and now fully healthy. Oh, this is the version that we can expect of you moving forward. 7 catches, 101 yards, find your way into the end zone for an early 7-0 lead. Things like that, really promising. 2 explosive plays downfield. And just the sheer unknown of what is just John Mateer's athleticism is going to keep you in every single game. There is a certain brand of quarterback that you have got to be if you want to be successful at Oklahoma. And it's the attitude, the swagger, and the persona that it doesn't matter the opponent, it doesn't matter the environment. I am the best player on the field. Let me show you why. And it didn't feel that way with Jackson Arnold. And the thing is, at a place like Norman, people don't understand what Oklahoma is. It is a unique brand that is built on grit and built on finesse. And they have a certain dichotomy of fans and people that will tell you when they can tell you if you're faking it, if you don't know how to be a part of this Oklahoma football. And Jackson Arnold didn't have that last year. Doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback. It just means that you're not Oklahoma's quarterback. John Mateer has those traits. The thing that worries me is going to be, do they have a running back that can actually take pressure off of Mateer? Because if he's leading your team in rushing every single game, eventually you got to ask yourself, well, when does the dam break? When do we just watch as this team has to win one way, through the air? You got to get somebody moving in the ground. Blaylock, Barnes, Ott, someone has got to be that dude. But it's a building block. It's a good win. And most importantly, it's not a finished product. And you get 2 more games, actually 3 more games because of what happens in the Auburn game, before Red River to get all these kinks worked out before you go down to Dallas and face off against Texas and what's going to be a must-see Red River shootout. I
love his moxie. It is Baker-esque. It is Pavia-esque. It is, I would steal from myself, Castellanos-esque through the first 2 games. I love that. I mean, and again, I've said this several times on here. This sport is entertainment. And I like not only what Mateer does while the play is live, I love the swagger he carries himself with. Is that winning you games in and of itself? No. But I do love that he has that as well. If you are watching us right now, if you're live on X or on YouTube, make sure that you do hit the subscribe button. If you're on X, we would love if you joined us on YouTube live at noon on Monday and Wednesdays so we can see your comments. X doesn't show them to us because they suck. So go over to YouTube and hit the subscribe button on College Football Addiction so that we can interact with you in chat. Appreciate those in the comments right now. Tennessee, UGA, a massive matchup. Listen, I'm a little bit pissed about this because my kids start soccer this week and they're done by about 11:30. And I was looking at flights to Knoxville, leaving at 2 and getting into Knoxville like 4. Direct flights, $120 round trip. I was like, I can make the game. I'm going to go up. As soon as their soccer games are over, I'm going up. And then I realized this was a 3:30 kickoff. And I was like, how is this not 8 p.m.? Like, what are we doing? I looked the entire time. I'm booking flights I didn't actually book them, but I'm like clicking into the flights to book them, not realizing this was an early kickoff. So I'm a little bit pissed that this is an 8 o'clock because I literally got the thumbs up and the go ahead from my wife, which is rare because I'm out of town like every weekend. But I was like, look, I'll go to the games and then I'll go up there. She's like, whatever, do what you want. And so whoever this scheduled this at 3:30 can, not on my Christmas list. But SEC first. So Cole, I know you just went, but Tennessee, Georgia. Can the Vols pull up the upset here?
It's really interesting because this is a game that's usually played at the end of the season or at least in the middle part of the year. So you have a little bit more of an understanding of who these rosters are. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? We still technically don't know what it is right now for either side. I think that Tennessee, with the explosive passing attack that we've noticed with Joey Aguilar at quarterback, massive win in favor of the Vols. The deep ball is back in Neyland, and that is a blessing that Rocky Top has been praising the name of number 6 since he arrived. The Puerto Rican missile has been the launching plays every single opportunity, and he has delivered. The other thing is that I think that you have a more balanced rushing attack for Tennessee. One thing that I worried about last season was you were the Dylan Sampson show. It was just a one-man wrecking crew, and if he was not moving the ball, you had no shot. Well, now you're seeing it with Star Thomas, and you're watching it with Peyton Lewis, and you're seeing it with Deshaun Bishop, and every single one of these running backs has a role that's eerily similar to that team in 2022 with Hendon Hooker that felt like if he doesn't get hurt, they could be a college football playoff team. They could certainly be a threat to win a national title because of what their offense was. For Georgia, the physicality is back. Like, we're going to overreact to the Austin Peay game. I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to doubt Kirby Smart, by all means, do so at your own risk. And I cannot wait for you to be wrong. Because the physicality that was missing last year in the trenches on both sides of the ball is very well on display. And I do think that you have some questions when it comes to Gunnar Stockton, but also there are some questions when it comes to just the offensive play design of Mike Bobo. And right now, they're not seeing eye to eye. They're certainly not on the same wavelength. And this is a matchup where you have got to be able to deliver. I think that you have the weapons that are really, really good that will elevate the status of what is this passing attack from a season ago. I think that you have a defense that is good enough to shut down what has been a very potent passing game for the likes of this Tennessee roster for weeks on end. So you got to feel content about this game being maybe a lot of unknown that is very promising. The other thing that's really important here is that Ricky Gibson and Jamad McCoy, the two cornerbacks for Tennessee, are not going to be playing in this matchup. So if I'm Tennessee, what I'm trying to do is I want to corral the box. I want to throw an 8. I want to take away their run game. I want to see Gunnar Stockton beat me through the air. I want him to prove that he has got that arm. They got the weapons. They got the mentality to win in the passing attack. And on the flip side, if I'm Tennessee, if I'm Georgia, I want to see them be able to constantly run the football between the trenches. Because I want to take away that deep ball game. I don't want Braylon Staley. I don't want Chris Brazell. I don't want Mikey Matthews. I don't want Miles Kitzelman winning 18, 25 yards downfield. The explosive plays have got to be pedestrian. I want you to out physically gain me if I am Georgia. And they can do so because they have 3 running backs that can work. But this is going to be a major test for the offensive line of Tennessee. This is going to be a major test for what could be a very good balanced defensive line. And I just feel like right now, Georgia has the more depth when it comes to their overall persona. Offensive line, defensive line, they feel like a more complete team. It doesn't mean that Tennessee can't win this football game. I think Georgia is going to come showing up for a rock fight. I think Tennessee is going to have to take those couple of jabs that knock you out of your wilderness to where you can take those body blows. That's going to be their brand of fight. And I think that it could work. Whoever ends up having the more explosive plays, I think is going to win this football game. And it may end up being Gunnar Stockton with Zachariah Branch. Because remember, Zachariah Branch comes on in. He takes a 7-yard slant pounder. That's going 70 yards if you give him the opportunity to.
Cole, Tennessee starts these games really well. And when I was asked about this game earlier today, my biggest key, and I want you to correct me or give me your take on this. My biggest key was that they just got to finish. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they got up 14-3 in this game because they seem to do it every freaking year against Georgia. They start really well, they start fast, and then not for some reason, Kirby's a master at adjustments, and they usually have better talent. But for that reason alone, for those reasons, Georgia always finds their way back, and they always kind of sneak this thing out in the end, and usually it's not even typically super close in the end. If Tennessee could finish, and I don't know if that means you hold stuff back for the second half. I mean, I thought, Gus did a good job of that, holding the wheel route back until the second half against Bama, and they were able to extend a lead. I don't know if Heupel needs to kind of change the way he approaches that or just what the thought would be. But, man, if they could finish a little bit better and they could have some of those explosives later in the game as opposed to early, that's where I think they would have a little more success. But Tennessee always seems to jump out early in these big-time matchups. They finished against Bama last year. Again, we wonder, maybe Bama wasn't that good, so maybe that's fine. But if they can find a way to stay in front and finish the game a little bit more, I'll have a lot more confidence. Until I see it, though, it's hard to imagine them doing it against UGA's secondary.
The thing that is going to be really important in this game, and the number that you have to know, is 17. Now, why do you need to know 17? Because in every year, except for 2020, the COVID season, Tennessee has been held to 17 points or fewer on offense. That's just the key. Can you get over the 17 marker? Are you able to have a more explosive passing attack, or are you able to consistently move the ball, win the time of possession, have those explosive plays, and then get into the end zone? Finish drives. Because that's been an area where Kirby Smart has cooked, has been phenomenal against Josh Heupel, against Jeremy Pruitt, against Butch Jones. Tennessee has a Kirby Smart problem. They don't have a George problem. They have a Kirby Smart problem. They've been losing to Kirby since he got to campus in 2016. Can you be able to find more consistency on the offensive attack? Because if you do, then by all means, you may end up having a phenomenal season. Because I really do like this wide receiver room. I like Joey Aguilar. I like this defensive front. You just got to be able to score. You simply do. And right now, it's a big, big, big question mark. Massive question mark if you can get past that 17-point marker.
Tom, you got a score in this one?
Definitely give me the under. I saw 50 and a half.
If it doesn't hit, will you and drink apple cider vinegar.
I'm not drinking that shit. That's disgusting. I'm not doing
If
that.
Michigan wins, how about this? Michigan wins more than 9 games, you have to drink it. They go 10-2.
If they go 10-2, yeah, I'll do it.
All right.
Yeah,
we need one for me. We need to figure one out for me.
Oh,
But we can do that. You know.
we'll think about it. We'll give it a little time. Yeah, give me the under here. I like Georgia 24-14.
Cole?
Something is weird about this game, and I don't know if it's just the timing, if it's the fact that it's early on in the year, it's an unknown when it comes to Gunnar Stockton, or it's a gotta-have moment for Josh Heupel. I think this game goes to overtime, and I think Tennessee walks it off. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take Tennessee with the points because they're going to win. I just got this feeling that Joey Aguilar, doubted, unknown, people constantly wrote off the Vols going into this season, 8-4, maybe 9-3 at best. Something tells me that the streak is going to come to an end. I got a final score of 23-20. I think this is going to be very low scoring, but you get the last score to be able to go ahead and come out on top in Rocky Top.
Every time I pick against Kirby Smart, he wins. Every time I pick with him, they find a way to blow it. So I would like to see the upset here. I just don't know that I have faith in it. But if you are following along, I'm usually wrong. So give me Georgia 24-17. I think it's a super close game, and they just make a couple more plays to get over the top. I do think this will be a fun one. I think Notre Dame, Texas A&M, we'll talk about on Wednesday. But that'll be a fun one too. This to me screams game of the week. And so which is why I guess game day is there, because West Virginia let us down for the brawl. But I do think that I think Georgia wins by about a touchdown. So what do we got next? UF LSU in Death Valley. This was fun too. I mean, maybe it's lost a little bit of its luster because of what happened with South Florida. Listen, all the bad things I said about Florida earlier, all the bad critiques we had of Napier and Lagway and everything else, I think Florida gets up for this game. And I do think the one thing you can say about Billy Napier is his team should have quit about 4 years in a row, and they never do. They always play incredibly hard. They always rally around after they've been punched in the mouth. Sometimes it takes them a few punches in the mouth to get there, and that's what happened last year. But maybe I'm just trying to rectify how last week happened in my brain. I think they will play better. I think they'll get up for this game, and I think this will be competitive. And the spread's like 9.5, 10, somewhere in there. But I think this will be more competitive than maybe we were all expecting once that field goal went in for USF. Cole, do you see it like that, or do you see it a little bit different?
No, I think that this is going to be a wake-up call for Florida because it has to be. Like, I truly believe you are playing with a 1-0 mentality from here on out, and that it is an elimination game. Treat it like that you are in the college football playoff already, and that every single matchup is a win or go home, because that is the only way that you're going to be able to respond. The play calling has got to be better, I think, from Billy Napier. If you want to be the offensive coordinator and you know that you have a running back that is challenging to bring down because he is a bowling ball, but also has that home run speed in Jaden Baugh, you have got to let him get in the open field. If DJ Lagway is not able to build any type of consistency in the passing attack, you have to trust the ground game. That just is a non-negotiable in this game. I think the other thing is you are going to have to avoid the careless penalties. Most teams, I think, can survive if they were to play a pretty clean matchup, but lead the side in penalties. I think for the most part you can survive. I don't think that, because of what the problem is that it's a snowball that gets bigger and bigger and bigger and turns into an avalanche. One false start leads to a holding penalty, which leads to a face mask call, which leads to a block in the back, which leads to a roughing the passer, which leads to a pass interference. And then you're countlessly losing yards on one side and giving up yards on the other. So I think you're going to have to play a clean game in this matchup. There's just no other way to say it. If you end up having too many holding calls and you try to protect Lagway by getting your hands and throwing down a defensive end, you're going to be in trouble. I do think that LSU, people are overreacting to the game against Louisiana Tech. They didn't look great. I get that. But also, a part of me thinks that so much of the offseason, so much of what has been this team was all about getting to 1-0 against Clemson. And so it was an emotional win. You kind of now took your foot off the brake gas a little bit, and you didn't look perfect against Louisiana Tech. Well, now that's gone. Now you have to go to, okay, well, that's 2 weeks in the past. We got to go 1-0 against Florida. And then we got to go 1-0 against Ole Miss. Then we got to go 1-0 against South Carolina. That's got to be your mentality. And I think that it can get there. I also think that you have to show that you can run the football efficiently. Because last season, the problem was so many times Garrett Nussmeier had to be the answer when it came to the offense. And now you got a defense that can bail you out of trouble. Because last season it was, we can't run the football. We can't get any stops. Nuss, you're going to have to go ahead and throw for 400 yards in this game if we want to win. You don't have to worry about that anymore because if you have a defense that can bail you out of trouble, but you do have to ask yourself, do you have a rushing attack that can be complementary to where this overall offensive identity is in year 2? Can you make those adjustments? Can you be able to trust that you are running the football with ease? Can you put yourself in a position where you're able to open up the playbook on 2nd and 3 or a 3rd and 1? And you're not living in 3rd and 11 to where, hey, they can only do one thing on this play. Get a stop, we get a turnover. That's what we need. If it comes down to the quarterbacks, I trust Garrett Nussmeier a little bit more because he's already played in an environment where he has got to be the dude without a run game. If it comes down to the running back room, I think Florida may have an advantage. Jaden Baugh, in my opinion, is the best running back in terms of potential in the SEC. If it comes down to the offensive line, it really is just going to be based off of who the hell wants to show up. Because of the way that USF bullied Florida's offensive line into making critical mistakes, especially in the second half, LSU is going to beat you in that. LSU is going to be able to manhandle you in that. And also, what's going to be the status of this defensive line? And what's going to be the status of several players? You know, we've already been announced that LJ McCray is not going to be playing in this matchup, and he's going to be undergoing surgery. So who's going to step up in this front seven to be able to add pressure to Garrett Nussmeier?
For me, I'm with Cole. I do not like a Garrett Nussmeier offense where he is required to throw the ball 40 times a game. It's not saying that he can't do that. He's obviously doing it at a high volume. Wouldn't you feel a little bit more comfortable with the rhythm if that was down to about 30, 35 attempts a game? I understand the weapons they have at wide receiver, but I completely agree with Cole. The rushing game just isn't there yet. Defensively, what they put on tape against Clemson, they prove they can really slow some people down. I just don't like the momentum right now surrounding Florida. I'm looking at this. I think Florida is about to be in the midst of a 4-game losing streak. You just lost to USF at home. You're going to Death Valley. I like LSU to win the game. Then you're at Miami, and then you host Texas. Texas, I feel a little flimsy about, but still I think Texas could pull off that win. At that point, is Billy Napier fired on October 5th? Like, that's really, I think, what Florida is staring down the barrel of in a worst-case scenario. But I think they can be competitive. I think the fact to the points that Cole just said, the ability to run the football is there for Florida, like it's not for LSU. That's going to have to keep them in the game. Online, I'm seeing a spread in LSU's favor of 9.5. I hate that. The over-under is 50.5. I, again, will take the under. I think I'm going to go 23-20 LSU. So I'll give Florida covering, but I don't think Florida wins this.
It's hard to imagine after seeing what we saw from them last week that they would do it. Now, again, Louisiana Tech, not a super Clemson. You know, maybe does that Clemson win look as good for LSU as it did a couple of weeks ago? The one thing I will say, and we're doing another segment here in a minute, and I could have used this, but I've got a lot of things that I was wrong about. The thing that I've been the most surprised about is LSU's defense. And that's where I do have faith in Florida's defense. I think they'll make things very tough on LSU. But I don't have faith that Florida's offense can move the ball consistently enough against what I think is one of the better defenses in the country, and certainly looks to have resurged under their second-year coach. I do think that LSU's defense is the difference in this game. Playing in Baton Rouge at night, also a massive difference in this game. But, yeah, it's tough for me to envision a way that Florida goes into Death Valley and wins this game because of what I just watched them do, right? If you can't finish against USF, no discredit to the Bulls, I have a hard time seeing you finish against LSU. So I do think they bounce back. I think they play relatively well. I think Lagway plays better. I do think he's a gamer. I think he's the kind of kid that will get up for a big game like this. I think their playmakers will play well. I think they'll go to ball more and have more effectiveness on the ground. Again, head scratching that they went away from him after he had 50 yards. But I think that was a big difference. Cole, predict this one so we can go to right and wrong and get out of here on time today.
If you're asking me to trust the ground game, I trust Jaden Baugh over Caden Durham. If you're asking me to trust the defense, I trust LSU over Florida. What this really comes down to me is a quarterback situation. Got to have moment in the last drive of the game. And I've watched Garrett Nussmeier do it. I've seen him multiple times be able to deliver in a got to have situation. And I think that's going to be the difference in this matchup. As much as I believe that you are going to see a revamped Florida team and one that truly plays up to its standard, I just got to believe you're in Death Valley. The Western Sky sets on a Saturday night, and it is going to be a brutal bloodbath between the Suns and the Soaksing of Bourbon and Corn Dogs. I got a 21-17 final score. I am taking the points. I am taking the plus 8.5 in favor of Florida, but LSU just finds a way to go undefeated and stay at 3-0.
That was
can't remember if
and romantic. That was beautiful.
I can't remember if I said a score or not, but 24-17 LSU. I do think, we all have them covering. So, all right, right and wrong. What were you right about so far through 2 weeks, and what were you wrong about? We each get like a minute on this because we got to run. I was wrong about Cade Klubnik. I had him as QB1 coming into the year. He's got time to turn it around, but just certainly not there yet. I'll stay in the ACC. I think I was right about Carson Beck. I did not buy that Carson Beck was going to be bad. It's just 2 games. He's got a tough 3-game slate with USF, UF, and FSU coming up. I had a couple other things, but in the sake of time, I'll just mention those 2. So I was right and wrong about ACC quarterbacks, and we'll see if I end up being proven the other way as we go on. Cole, what you got right and wrong?
Tom, you go first. I got to use the...
You're slowly dying. I'll go. Just this past weekend, I was wrong in that the game that went to overtime was Baylor and SMU, not Illinois versus Duke. So I was also wrong about Illinois. I believed that game was going to be closer than it was. Hats off to the Illini. Altmaier is showing that he's leveled up and he's able to carry that team. And Fagan at running back, kind of a continuity from last season. I was curious to see how they would do with some of those pieces leaving the running back room. So credit to Illinois. So I was wrong about that. And I was wrong about Michigan potentially beating Oklahoma. So 7-5. Here we come, Wolverine fans.
Were you right about anything?
What was I right about? Probably nothing. That's why we do this show. Probably nothing. I don't know. I do these shows. I keep no notes of any of the predictions I made. So if you guys want to come at me, get in the comments section. Cole will tell me what they are after the fact because I don't read those either. This is my favorite thing to do.
I was 100% right about Sawyer Robertson being QB1 in the Big 12. The way that he has played has been able to keep Baylor in every single game. And honestly, that in a wide open conference where we don't know who is going to take the next step forward, having a quarterback may end up being the difference. And they got a good dude in Sawyer Robertson that absolutely has delivered time after time after time. What I was wrong about is that the more penalized team was going to lose in Starkville on Saturday. Mississippi State had more penalties. They gave up more rushing yards, but they have a quarterback that you believe in Blake Shapen, and they got a good defense now, especially one in the passing attack. 3 explosive plays downfield, including the game winner to Brennan Thompson. I don't think that we're going to see Mississippi State be a bowl eligible roster. I think 4-8 still is a possibility, maybe 5-7, but they are going to be an exciting team. And I think that the fact that they have a healthy offensive personnel, the fact that they went and they built a ground game with the addition of Fluff Bothwell, it's going to make them at least an enticing matchup where if you do not deliver your best punch, you are definitely going to get points.
That's all the time we got for today. Thanks, boys. The Power 2 on College Football Edition. Do me a favor, follow all the guys on social media. Links are in the description. And on Wednesday, we'll talk about Texas A&M Notre Dame. We'll talk about probably Miami USF since that's a ranked matchup. We'll figure out a couple more things. So make sure you are locked in with us and subscribe. We will talk to you guys soon.